What if I told you there is a fruit-bearing shrub that completely shatters the rules of modern gardening? A biological anomaly that produces massive clusters of sweet berries in half the time it takes a commercial blueberry bush to even establish its roots. Think about the immense frustration of growing conventional berries, the endless soil testing, the expensive acidic amendments, the constant fight against nature just to get a handful of tart fruit. Now consider a native North American survivor that demands absolutely nothing from you. A plant so vigorously independent it thrives in heavy alkaline clay, sandy loam, and completely neglected dirt. A shrub that survives 50 degrees below zero winters and produces continuous explosive harvests for over 40 years from a single planting, yielding up to 30 pounds of premium fruit per bush, while the expensive blueberries at the garden center are still struggling to survive. This is not a myth. This is a botanical masterpiece that fed entire civilizations before the agricultural industry deliberately erased it from our nurseries. Welcome back to Ancestral Soil. By the end of this video, you will discover the lost secret of the Saskatoon serviceberry. I will show you exactly why the modern fertilizer industry had to make this plant disappear, and you will learn how to plant this forbidden biological machine in your own backyard to secure decades of absolute food independence. To understand this botanical cover-up, you must look at the modern nursery industry for what it truly is. They are not in the business of selling you food independence. They are in the business of selling you a biological subscription plan. The commercial blueberry is the absolute perfect corporate product. It is genetically demanding and incredibly fragile. It absolutely refuses to thrive unless it is placed in a highly acidic soil environment, an environment that simply does not exist naturally in the vast majority of American backyards. When you purchase a blueberry bush, you are unknowingly stepping into a carefully designed financial ecosystem. You cannot just place it in the earth and expect a harvest. You are forced to buy the heavy bags of elemental sulfur. You must purchase the imported bales of peat moss. You have to constantly monitor the soil pH and apply specialized, expensive acidifying fertilizers season after season. An entire multi-million-dollar accessory market relies entirely on the blueberry being extremely difficult to keep alive. Now, look at the Saskatoon serviceberry. In the eyes of the agricultural industry, the Saskatoon commits the ultimate corporate sin. It is entirely, stubbornly self-sufficient. It thrives beautifully in standard, neutral garden dirt. It demands absolutely zero artificial pH modification. It requires no specialized chemical inputs to produce massive yields of sweet fruit. You plant it once in whatever native soil you happen to have, and it begins a 40-year cycle of heavy, unstoppable production. But for a commercial garden center, a plant that needs nothing is a financial disaster. You cannot sell endless bags of soil treatments to a rugged shrub that perfectly adapts to its environment. You cannot generate seasonal, repeat accessory sales from a native survivor that takes care of itself. Because the Saskatoon did not generate ongoing profits, the industry made a quiet, calculated decision. They did not make it illegal, they simply erased it. They removed it from the major wholesale catalogs and replaced it entirely with the high-maintenance blueberry. They traded your permanent food security for their quarterly profits. And over the decades, they successfully brainwashed millions of Americans into believing that struggling with delicate, expensive plants was just a normal part of growing your own food. But the American landscape was not always controlled by corporate nurseries. Long before the invention of synthetic fertilizers and patented blueberry bushes, there was a deep empirical understanding of native botany. For thousands of years, across the unforgiving plains and freezing northern territories, the indigenous tribes of North America did not just forage this plant, they revered it. The very name Saskatoon is actually born from the ancient Cree word Misaskotomina. To the Native American peoples, this was not merely a sweet summer treat, it was a fundamental cornerstone of human survival. They understood that the Saskatoon possessed a dense, concentrated nutritional profile that could sustain life through the most brutal, unforgiving winters. They used this specific berry to create the ultimate ancient survival food known as pemmican. They painstakingly pounded dried lean meat into a dense powder, mixed it with rendered fat, and blended it with massive quantities of dried Saskatoon berries. They created a high-energy, nutrient-dense ration that could literally last for years without a single drop of refrigeration. The berries were not added simply to improve the flavor. They were a highly calculated biological component. The Saskatoon provided the essential vitamins, the powerful antioxidants, and the crucial trace minerals that actively prevented scurvy and starvation when the land was buried under feet of snow. Early European explorers and rugged fur traders quickly realized a profound truth. Without the Saskatoon berry and the life-saving pemmican it created, surviving the violent American frontier was nearly impossible. Our ancestors did not have pristine, temperature-controlled garden beds. They did not have digital soil test kits or artificial irrigation systems. They relied entirely on a rugged, wild shrub that willingly gave up its heavy harvest year after year in the absolute harshest conditions on the continent. This plant literally built, fueled, and sustained early American history. It was respected as a powerful medicine and fiercely protected as a vital food source. It stood as a symbol of absolute resilience, long before it was quietly swept under the rug by a modern industry that directly profits from your lack of self-reliance. Modern science loves to claim it discovers superfoods, but in the case of the Saskatoon berry, modern laboratories are simply validating what our ancestors already knew. When agricultural researchers finally placed this native fruit under the microscope, the results completely shattered the blueberry supremacy myth. The garden industry has spent millions marketing the commercial blueberry as the ultimate antioxidant powerhouse. Yet clinical analysis reveals that the wild genetics of the Saskatoon hold significantly higher levels of antioxidants and powerful anthocyanins. When you crush a ripe Saskatoon berry, it bleeds a thick, deep carmine hue. That intense color is the visual proof of a massive concentration of biological medicine. It delivers a heavy dose of natural pectin, carotene, and crucial trace minerals like copper and cobalt that your body desperately needs for cellular repair. It naturally contains more dietary fiber and more essential iron than the heavily promoted, artificially fed commercial blueberry. But the true scientific marvel of this plant lies deep inside its rugged genetic code. The modern blueberry is a fragile creature that requires constant chemical feeding in perfect conditions just to survive. The Saskatoon is a biological fortress. It has evolved to endure apocalyptic winter temperatures dropping down to 40 degrees below zero without suffering a single scratch of structural damage. Even more astonishing is its brutal defense mechanism during the highly vulnerable spring bloom. A sudden, late spring frost will completely annihilate a commercial blueberry orchard in a matter of hours, wiping out an entire year of food production. But the delicate white flowers of the Saskatoon can withstand freezing temperatures plunging down to 19 degrees Fahrenheit and still produce a massive, heavy harvest. It does not need your synthetic nitrogen or your expensive liquid fertilizers. Its powerful root system aggressively hunts for its own nutrients deep within the earth, feeding itself and thriving on absolute neglect. Science has definitively proven that this forgotten shrub is not just an alternative to the commercial garden center blueberry. It is a supreme biological upgrade in every conceivable metric. It is time to stop playing by the rules of the commercial garden center. Reclaiming your food independence begins with a single, rebellious act of planting. You do not need a degree in horticulture to grow the Saskatoon serviceberry. You simply need to find the right native genetics. Search your specialized local nurseries or online growers for superior, high-yielding varieties like the Northline, the Martin, or the heavy-producing Smoky. When your bare root plants arrive, I want you to forget everything the industry taught you about soil preparation. Throw away the digital pH testing kits. Ignore the expensive bags of imported peat moss and chemical acidifiers. Dig a hole in whatever native dirt you happen to have in your backyard. Whether it is heavy clay or sandy loam, simply plant the shrub, water it deeply during its first year of establishment, and then completely walk away. Let the ancient, wild genetics take over. As the Saskatoon matures, this biological machine will do something incredible. It will naturally begin to send up new shoots directly from its own root system. It effortlessly propagates itself, allowing you to easily dig up the new suckers and expand your harvest. You are not just planting a single bush, you are slowly forming a massive, resilient edible hedge, a living wall of permanent food security that multiplies aggressively without ever costing you another dime. Within a few short years, you will be harvesting buckets of deep purple, intensely sweet berries from a plant that simply refuses to die. You will be gathering a heavy, nutrient-dense survival crop while the rest of the neighborhood is still pouring expensive sulfur onto their struggling, fragile commercial blueberries. True independence does not require permission from a corporation. It is grown quietly and powerfully in your own native dirt. If you are ready to stop feeding the agricultural machine and start securing real, permanent sustenance for your family, hit the subscribe button right now. Join us here at Ancestral Soil, and together let us plant the seeds of absolute self-reliance.